Hey everybody, how we doing? I am gonna get Micky invited here. There we go. Hello to everybody joining. I've got the invite sent and Micky will pop up here in just a second, I'm sure. Hello, how are you?
Hello. Good. I'm trying to get my phone set up here on my
Same. We've got a lovely sun streaming in from you.
We'll see. My aura. Yes, I have to wrangle things up so that the sun comes in the right way because I have these weird little square
Well, it's lovely.
windows,
It's like a
right
filter
above me,
without having to filter.
Yeah. And then I have my little panda
that
joins me, my little panda eraser.
How fun. I'm glad that it's zoomed in because there's chaos in every direction behind me, which is not how I prefer to exist, but that's just life sometimes. How you doing?
Yeah. How it is.
Very
I'm
glad
good.
to be with you, and thanks
Sarah.
for letting us be a part of this Wednesday happy hour that you've been doing. How have they been going? You've done a few of them so far, huh?
Oh, good. I mean, it's just me, like a lot of it is for me not to be nervous in front of the camera. I mean, I've literally spoken in front of thousands of people on multiple continents, but there's something about talking into my phone. I don't know what it is. I'm just like, hi, is anybody there? This is weird. I can't see you. You can't see me. What are we doing? So it's like I'm trying to get used to this mode of conversation and see if I like it and how much I want to do it. And so it's really kind of an experiment for me. And since we're talking Enneagram as a type 1, to learn how to do this without perfection, right? Like, how do I just turn on a camera and go? Just start talking. Just let whatever, I can't control it. Whatever comes up, comes up. And yeah, I can erase it, if it's that bad, but also just what does it mean? Like, this is a real practice, especially for a type 1, of just showing up.
Well, thanks for practicing with me today. And I'll do just a little introduction and then we'll kind of jump into conversation. So thanks to everybody who's here and everybody who will be listening in the future to this. And I'm Sarah Dewey, social media manager here at the Narrative Enneagram. Some of you have seen my face before, and I have the great honor of talking with Micky ScottBey Jones today. And we'll see where the conversation goes. I trust that we will find and follow a flow. But the intent is to talk a bit about the Narrative Enneagram certification process, what it's like to certify with TNE, why, and what's involved with all that, because Micky has recently been through that process. So I'll do a quick official bio and then we'll just chat. But Micky ScottBey Jones of Enneagram for the People is a certified narrative Enneagram teacher and certified life coach with the Academy of Creative Coaching, who accompanies people through transitions and growth seasons. And in addition to her teaching and coaching work, Micky works in the transformative leadership space and offers facilitation and consulting for organizations. And we at TNE are excited to report that she's now a coach that you can work with in our internship program. And we'll get to that a little later on. So did I miss anything important? Anything you want to add? Okay.
No, that's great. It's a great start. I do a lot of things, so it's like
which ones are pertinent to describe all the particular conversation. I have that challenge sometimes too.
Right.
Yeah. So I guess we can just start by introducing folks, and I don't actually know the answer to this, but like, how did you begin work with the Enneagram? How did you find it? And then specifically, kind of what led you to the narrative Enneagram eventually in that journey?
Yeah. I mean, I have a story similar to a lot of folks that it's like, I joke that that the Enneagram is like, I don't know, like numerology for progressive Christians. It's like it's like, it's your initiation process, right? And so like, as I kind of moved,
Sure.
I mean, now you see a lot more evangelicals into Enneagram, but back in, I don't know, 2011, 12, that was not the case. And as I started moving more, like my theology was changing and I was moving into progressive Christianity, all of my friends were talking about the Enneagram. Then I went to seminary and it was part of my seminary journey. And so it became like, part of the spiritual formation process in my seminary. And so, but also what happened, because I was doing a lot of the exploration in friend circles,
Interesting.
I was actually mistyped. Because my friends saw me in a particular way as a strong leader, as someone who would speak her mind. And so I got typed as an 8. And I just kind of agreed with that, because there were a lot of parts of that I could agree with, that I could understand what people saw. But it wasn't until I read Richard Rohr's book and finally read about the one and about the inner critic. And I was like, oh, okay. So
right.
People don't know what's happening in here. And that's why they think. Now,
close.
Still a body type. So it was, close. And that's why I think I have a lot of like empathy for folks who start out, at a different type and feel like they move, because sometimes there can be shame around that or whatever. And I'm like, no, it's all part of the journey. It's great. Doesn't matter. You're working with the Enneagram. You're getting used to the tool. It's not about perfectly nailing your type, which I love, that's a thing for us too, even as teachers. We know that we don't have to nail the type. But yeah, and then I did my first certification in 2018 and 19, and then did narrative Enneagram over this last little bit over the pandemic, and got my full certification done early in 2022.
And I remember when you did the first certification, because I had kind of, I don't even remember how, but on some podcast somewhere, I'm sure, discovered you and your work, and I remember that. So what made you pursue the narrative specifically on top of that prior certification? What did it seem like you would value you would get from adding that?
Yeah, I mean, and I loved my first certification. My first teacher, Dr. Deborah Uten, shout out Dr. Uten, is narrative trained, knew Dr. Daniels, dear close friend of Dr. Daniels. And so I already had kind of a narrative foundation, but Dr. Uden teaches a very eclectic mix of like all the things that she's discovered about the Enneagram, and mixes in spiral dynamics, which is really cool. And like, it's just her particular way of teaching, which is one of the great things about Enneagram, is every teacher teaches it differently. And at that time, actually, narrative wasn't super, like just the narrative Enneagram was not super accessible to me, because there weren't online classes at that time in 2018. So actually I may have started with her. Actually, I think I started with her in 2017. Anyway, it doesn't matter. But so when I decided I was ready for more training, just because I'm the kind of, even when I was a doula, because that was my career for a long time, was mother baby care and repro stuff. And I had 11 certifications related to like maternal fetal health at one point. Like, I mean, I love to have certifications. I love to know things. It's important to me to kind of have that cross training, and I have always respected Dr. David Daniels and kind of the lens that he brought to the Enneagram. I deeply respect Helen Palmer. Enneagram in Love and Work is one of my favorite Enneagram books. And, I mean, thank you, Helen, for that book, because I probably refer to people to it at least once a month. And so to learn from that tradition that they really crystallized, I was like, okay, this is the next step in my kind of, to fill out what I really want to be my basis as an Enneagram teacher. And
I love that. And I should have said this earlier, but people know the drill, but if you have questions or comments or things as we're chatting, please comment, or there's a little question mark down there. Use that. We will make space at the end for questions and stuff, but we can be chatty along the way with y'all too, please. Okay, so what does certification, because it's a robust and involved process to certify with the narrative Enneagram, and we have kind of two different tracks, one for teachers who work with groups and one for practitioners who are working more one-on-one with people, probably already in a like a counseling, therapy, or coaching context. So which one of those did you do? And then could we just share with people kind of the three parts of that process?
Sure. Yeah. You might have to help me out with all the names. It's like, I don't remember what all the pieces are. But yes, I did the teacher track. I will probably go back and do the practitioner track because I'm a coach. But I wanted to just do one to start with. And, you start in those core classes, which, anybody can take the core classes. You don't have to have this goal of, I want to be the world's next great Enneagram teacher. I mean, you might discover that as you're taking those core classes, but, for me, they were a good kind of refresher, and just, it never hurts to go back and hit the basics. Right. So, those first kind of core classes, and then
there's 4 classes.
I don't remember how many in that, but
it's the Enneagram Intensive Parts 1 and 2, Deepening Spiritual Awareness, and Instincts and Subtypes. So that's the core program, the 4 classes. And then for people who want to pursue certification, there's this professional training program that comes after.
Right. And that's when we get into the typing process and the teacher training.
Right. It's just one class
or
that's
the
different for the actual coursework. So everybody in the professional program does typing process, and then either the teacher training or Enneagram for therapists, counselors, and coaches, or coaches and counselors. I don't remember the order ever. But ETCC. There are all these letters for everything.
Right. Yeah. And what I both was honestly terrified about at first and ended up loving about the typing process is that you literally learned to come up with your own typing questions. I mean, one of the things I love about the narrative process or the narrative tradition is that we do typing interviews. Tests are fine. People love to just be able to go and quickly take a test, and you can gain some insight from that. But I personally think that typing interviews are, one, it's more personalized, right? Because you're sitting across from someone who is asking you questions, someone who, is educated and trained in the Enneagram, and then is asking you questions to kind of help your type come to the surface. And it's really so that you then can type yourself. It's not about telling the person what their type is, which is so important. And I think some of these training programs out there, I mean, I haven't taken them all. I don't know the inside information, but the way some people come out of them, it's like they feel like it's their business to now go around the world and tell people what their type is. My BAB, badass bestie is what we call each other, my best friend. She had an experience like that with an Enneagram teacher that was like, I really think you're 9 or whatever. And look, my BAB is the most 2-est 2 that has ever 2'd in the world of 2s. And she knows it, and she's clear, and she's done a lot of work around it, right? And so it's like, if you become clear about nothing else in the typing process, it's like, your job.
No, it's like number 1 on our ethics. Yeah.
Your job is, right. You're there as a guide, as a Sherpa, as a friend, as a coach, but it's not your business. Well, it's just not, and so to free you in that way as a teacher and as a practitioner, that that is not on you. It's actually not super freeing to me and allows me to
there's not all this pressure to get it right. We offer people options, informed options, and and this is can still happen obviously virtually because it's happening all the time now, but in comparison to tests like you were talking about, to type, whether you're in person in the room with somebody or virtually like this, it's it kind of brings in that embodiment piece that you just can't in a test. And that's, you know, one of our core pillars, the psychology, the spirituality, and the somatics. And so there's a lot we can tell even just from sometimes from body language and things like that, and that's part of the training. And I feel like, you know, it's hard to explain how interactive our classes are at every level, because so I've done all the coursework. I haven't done the internship program to certify, but I've done all the coursework, and like you, was just really impressed and grateful for how much practice we get in that typing process and teacher training. You're actually like doing this stuff over and over again, like first with, you know, peers observing and giving input, and then with faculty and coaches and stuff. So it's like it's pedagogically, it's like I feel like it's very well structured, because
and you know, I wasn't necessarily like expecting that at first. And so the first time that it was like, okay, now you're going to go practice, or now you're going to be in breakouts, I was like, I'm not ready. But you know, it's one of those things that you're ready. You just need to trust yourself, and you just need to try, and it works out. You know, it's not about perfection. It's not a competitive environment. So it's really just about you stepping into the things that you already know. And then the places where you still need more help, ask for that help, you know? So it really does kind of throw you in kind of immediately. I mean, maybe not in those core classes, but definitely after that, it's like, now's time to actually get into it and do the work. And I also feel like, with the typing process, and maybe even all along the way, right? Like, we're talking more and more about the Enneagram's origins now. Like, I feel like we didn't talk about that in the past, but you know, it's always been, at least Enneagram of personality has been a kind of communal thing. Like, it was an oral tradition. Like, that's also like a big part of where narrative traces their lineage, is like, this was an oral tradition of us talking to each other, the teacher talking to you about your strengths and weaknesses, about your type. And so there needs to be a lot of communication involved. It's not just somebody standing up at the front
which
of the
is
room
really common in
lecturing you.
Enneagram circles, for sure.
Yeah.
So, okay, so that is a good look at kind of the core program and the professional training. And then the third part is this internship program. And so this is something you recently completed, and that now you're a coach for. So what was that experience like, and what was your relationship like with your coach, and maybe a specific story or example of something that happened in this process that was just impactful or noteworthy?
Yeah. Well, I have the best coach, other than myself, Christopher Copeland. And I don't think he's coaching right now, but I feel like it was really great. You know, I think the reason sometimes people are like, well, I don't need to get certified, and you don't legally need to be certified in order to be an Enneagram teacher. I mean, literally anyone can hang out a shingle and say they're an Enneagram teacher, and look on Instagram. Pretty clear that that's what happens a lot of times. But you know, and I understand why, because a lot of certifications are just phone it in, right? Like, you complete the modules online, you turn in a couple of things that you could literally copy out of a workbook. You know, maybe you record some things that you can record 10 times until it's perfect, and you're done, stamped. And with the internship process, I think what's different is that you are doing your own work alongside of honing your skill, right? There is this, you know, because when I entered the internship process, I did think I was going to kind of be able to phone it in. I was like, oh, I'm just going to record all my stuff, get it in, and, you know, we'll do a few coaching sessions along the way. It's going to be easy breezy, wonderful. And I remember our first session, Chris was like, oh, no. You record yourself doing a typing interview, send it to me. I review it and give you feedback. Right. You incorporate that feedback on the next. And I was like, oh, this is going to take longer than I anticipated. And it didn't, but that was because I put up myself on a very rigorous schedule of like how I was going to get it done. And I had a plan. And so I really try to help my folks if they want that. I'm like, I can show you how to, you know, map this out and get it done. Or you can leisurely stroll through, whatever works for you. But I, you know, that part of like, oh no, this isn't, the coaching sessions aren't just for me to tell you you're doing a great job and like, you know, pat you on the back. It's to give you actual feedback on the work you're doing. It is to help you question your own biases, your own places of growth, what was difficult for you, what was easy for you. And that is super valuable in like actually developing your skills in facilitating panels, because part of it is facilitating panels, part of it is doing typing interviews and giving some you know, little mini talks on Enneagram. And yes, there's, you know, a little bit of answering some questions, kind of like a test kind of thing. But, you know, getting that feedback back and forth, that's not about pass or fail or like judging you. It's really about, you've made it this far, and we want to make sure that all of this knowledge, all this, you know, stuff you have in these workbooks is translating to how you're actually interacting with people. And because we have our own type to work through while we're, you know, actually working with somebody else, the coach is able to give you that feedback. And you're really able to pace it yourself, which can be kind of good and bad. So I felt like it was just really, really helpful for me to be called into my own work in the process. Because again, as someone who was already certified through another school, who had, you know, I already had one of the best teachers that is out there, I could have just phoned it in with a lot of other organizations, right? Like they wouldn't have required a lot out of me. And this internship process, it does require some stuff out of you. And so I feel like people who really engage the process, I don't know how everybody coaches, but like for me, I really want to engage people and help them do that self-reflection. And I think if you actually do that, if you take it upon yourself as the person going through the internship to do that, you're going to feel so much stronger as a teacher, as as someone who types people, all of that. You're going to feel a lot stronger with your skill set when you finish the internship.
Well, and you're not only working with us as a coach right now, you're doing some other consulting and ongoing work with the Narrative Enneagram as an organization. And I don't know all the ins and outs of that, but I was wondering if you had any kind of feedback or updates on kind of what that work is and what you see the organization doing well, and where do we still need to grow and improve and expand going forward?
I mean, it's not top secret, but it's still in the works. But I will say that I'm kind of working with the org to do some listening circles with people of global majority, or BIPOC folks, Black, Indigenous, and other people of color. So, you know, really kind of finding a way for T&E to actually do some of this DEI work and core value work that they have committed to, right? So it's great to put, you know, to do reflective work inside your team, to, have gone through a process with a consultant, which T&E has done. They worked with Dr. E on some stuff, and all of us who know Dr. E, we know she's amazing. And so, and then came up with this, with the revised core values and with the, the DEI statement, and all of that is fantastic. But, a lot of organizations have done things like that in the last couple of years. But a lot of organizations have just let it stay there. And we know in kind of the world of inner work and spiritual work and Enneagram specifically, not a lot of people are kind of doing a deep dive into diversity, equity, inclusion, belonging, anti-racism, anti-oppression work. Like, there's a lot of spiritual bypassing. There's a lot of, well, we have a committee, or, I'm going to have one Black teacher teach one session with me, or whatever, there are a lot of areas for growth. And so, it seems like T&E is actually interested in doing some of this work. I mean, I think there's still a long way to go. I think it's one of those things that it takes time to unravel what we've got, unless we just blow it up and start over again, which is an option. But then this organization that is actually trying to do some things doesn't exist anymore. So what does it look like to actually try and do the work? And so it, with these listening circles that I've been helping with, it's it's part of moving toward actually putting some action behind words, and it's kind of the next evolution of that. And so I hope to see some things come out of that. I will say, in my connection with my teachers at T&E, they have listened to the feedback that I've given just personally, and I felt like that matters to them, and that, again, that doesn't always happen. So I feel like there's a commitment there for us to form some sort of community. We do have membership at T&E, and I became a member because I feel like this is an organization that, it is small. It really is quite small as far as the staff and the faculty and all of that. And so it is a place where, if Enneagram is going to be part of my spiritual journey, my work, my inner work practice, I want to be with people who I feel like want to actually be in relationship with me and are listening to me. And I feel like that's happening with the people that I've talked to so far at T&E. It's been a really good experience as a student, as a coach, as somebody who does want to see the Enneagram as a whole be more inclusive and really be a place of belonging. So, everybody has different experiences, but I want, one of my personal passions is I want more global majority folks to go through the full, certification process. A lot of folks drop off before the internship. And so I want to know, why is that happening? How do we move people fully through the process? Because if people want to be certified, I want them to be certified. We need more of us out there,
it's just become so clear, and of course it was clear to some people the whole time, but how limited a lot of these understandings of type are, because they've been based on a very narrow demographic of people. And it's better for everyone to have a fuller understanding of and representation of type in every cultural and social context we can invite. And I mean, as with any organization, there's challenges and there's biases and things that people have to learn and unlearn and work together. And there's all of those challenges been going on, but or not but, and there is just a real desire and excitement to be doing more of this work. And so much has kind of happened behind the scenes that I'm excited. We're about to, in November, we have a strategic planning retreat, and then I hope be a lot more public about a lot of these efforts in 2023. But I'm super grateful that you're involved in all of that and working with us.
Yeah, I mean, I've really enjoyed it, and also I will say my getting back into my Enneagram studies and going through the certification process came at a time for me when I didn't know necessarily that that's what I needed to do as far as my own inner work, but I have talked about how when I first or early on in my discovery of the Enneagram, how it saved my life, how it helped me not hate myself. And it has continued to be something that has helped me have more self-compassion and then also have more empathy for other people. And, right. Dylan Marin says empathy is not endorsement. So it's not that I'm like, any behavior goes, right? Because again, Enneagram is not about behavior, it's about motivation. So helping me understand that about other people and about myself,
right?
That I'm not bad or broken. I just have a particular pattern of thought, of belief. And when I came back to my studies with the Enneagram in a particular way, I mean, I had always been working with it, but when I came back to it to study with the narrative Enneagram, I was at a particularly difficult time in my life. And so because the narrative program isn't just about here, get this information so you can go be a coach. It's about, which shade, no shade to a lot of these programs that have popped up in recent years. It's it seems like it's just to churn out. I just want to get the certification so I can say it's part of my coaching. At first I was actually kind of annoyed that I was going to have to do so much personal work. I was like, I don't want to do this right now. I don't want to look at myself on the inside. Yeah. I have been through enough. I just want to, but it's exactly what I needed to be doing. And it met me at a time when doing that inner work while then also studying in a way that would help me be a better Enneagram teacher and coach to other people. It met both of those needs. And, I think that that's one of the things that's fairly unique about TNE is that you're going to do your own work while you're learning more about the system. And if anything, you're going to come away understanding how much you do not know about the Enneagram, but at least some sense of how whatever you do know can be helpful in the inner work that you need to be doing.
I always think back to the system panels, and I think the part two of the intensive and some into second. I mean, huge breakthroughs and just exhaustion after for me. It's worth it. Good and transformative work. I mean, I know when I came home from the first, I did half and 2 parts, the core program and the other piece. But I was after doing the core program, I was like, well, I think I'm expedited about 3 years forward in my therapy. I'm gonna go to therapy. And we unlocked some things we can move on from a couple of it was just yeah. I can, but I think a lot, open up a lot, or yeah, just impactful for sure. Well, if anybody in the chat or watching or listening has questions or
for sure. People can find me at my website, MickyScottBeyJones.com. I'm the only Micky ScottBey Jones that exists, so pretty easy to find. You can always Google me, but I'm the only one. So my Instagram, please follow me there. I do have one now for Enneagram for the People, but it's brand new, so it's not a lot of content. But you can always follow me at electric_lady_MSJ. That's my personal / business Instagram. It's just the one I've had forever. And I'm on Twitter and Facebook, and I'm doing a little TikToking. Not really feeling it yet.
Sensory overload.
I know. Yes. So I'm like trying to be on there because there is some Enneagram content, but there are no other that I know of Black teachers on Enneagram teachers on TikTok. So I was like, okay, I can do that. So I've done a couple of Enneagram TikToks, but also I'm not really great on staying on brand. So I like did the Cup It challenge and like just random whatever I want to do on there, right? So it's like I'm trying to still figure that out. But my website's the easiest place. It does have stuff about my coaching. I coach with and without the Enneagram, but I do love doing Enneagram coaching work with folks. Teaching, like I sometimes go into organizations and do workshops. Sometimes hold my own workshops. Yeah, I do facilitation, which could include the Enneagram, but a lot of times doesn't, and consulting and writing. Working on a book proposal about an Enneagram book. Yes. So, yes. So hoping to get that done by the end of the year. Yeah, I mean, I sometimes come and speak to groups about the Enneagram and do kind of day-long or multiple day retreats or whatever workshops. So my thing really overall is like, how do we build sustainable leadership? How do we I work with a lot of change makers and clergy, activists, organizers, community leaders. People just out there trying to make the world a better place. And so you need tools to help you sustain, to not burn out, to deal with your stress. And I actually see the Enneagram as one of those tools because I think it can help you when you know yourself in a deeper way. You're able to tailor what those things are that you really need to kind of fuel yourself, to build your resilience. So I add in a lot of somatic stuff because I've gotten some somatic training. I have been doing a lot more with kind of the vagus nerve and even internal family systems, which is super exciting to me. So I'm like starting to pull other things in that have been helpful for me. And I'm always learning and always taking some sort of class, which I think any Enneagram teacher should be doing that with both the Enneagram and with other modalities, because so much stuff, like, when you can see that web and how it connects, it's like, oh my gosh. So I'm always trying to do that. So I would love to connect with people about any of that stuff. I'm also really interested in kind of, our cultural overlays, the contextual overlays and the Enneagram. So how does race, gender, sexuality, class, immigrant status, all of that stuff, how does that interact with our personality types? And how we know ourselves and how we experience the world and how we deal with our pattern thinking and pattern beliefs. So I am always kind of talking to other Enneagram teachers and coaches about that, and try to incorporate that into my teaching, because I do think your teacher matters. I do think, it's kind of like theology. I did my theology degree with Indigenous folks for the most part. And so that's an entirely different framework and understanding of God, the universe, spirit, scripture, all of those things. And it totally rearranged and continues to rearrange how I think about all of those things, and then how I talk about them and teach about them. And so me as a Black woman, as a womanist, as a queer person, like for me, all of that impacts how I teach and how I'm going to talk about these things. I've been told that, like often people after I either do a panel with them or something, they're like, you like, I've never heard anybody talk about, you know, my type this way or the Enneagram this way. You talk with so much compassion. And I'm like, yeah, right. I'm like, yeah, it doesn't, like, you don't have to hate yourself to do this work. You just don't, you know, and especially for people who are already really dealing with the oppressive systems of the world, right? Whether it's you're queer and you've been told your whole life you're terrible, whether it's, you know, as you've been under the weight of anti-Blackness, like what you don't need is someone else coming in and telling you how defective you are. And you know, and for some people that is like, they're like, oh, that's how I knew my type, when I, you know, when I read this thing and I just was like, oh, that's me, I'm a horrible person. And I'm like, oh, okay. But that's not for me. I'm not saying you don't need to do your shadow work, right? Like, yes, you want to look at your, you know, your sides that aren't so palatable or that are difficult for you to deal with. But some of us come to this work because we're really clear on what at least a layer or two of that is. And maybe the difficulty is having compassion for ourselves, or like being able to parse out what's kind of the outside world telling me I'm terrible and my own stuff I actually do need to work on. And so I do think I err on the side of compassion. You know, one of my, you know, big influences is Bell Hooks, and one of my quotes that I kind of like keep in front of me all the time, it's literally this Post-it note right here. It says, love is where I begin. Love is always a place where I begin and end. So for me, I'm going to begin and end with love in my Enneagram teaching. So
I love it.
Yeah.
I love it. Sorry, we got a note saying my audio was in and out, so sorry about that. I just reconnected, so hopefully that has fixed that. But yeah, that's beautiful. Thank you, and keep us posted on the book proposal process, because obviously we want to be in on that and have you back and all that good stuff.
Yeah. I mean, I'm saying that somewhat out of accountability, so, because I can't quit if I keep telling people that's what I'm doing. Then I have to. Well,
we are going to put all the links to Micky's stuff in the comments or the caption for this event, and just want to let folks know that if you have done the core program and typing process and are ready to kind of complete that coursework for certification, the early bird discounts are still going for both teacher training and Enneagram for therapists, coaches, and counselors. We've got just one more of each of those before the end of the year. So November 14th for teacher training is the deadline, November 23rd for ETCC, and you can save $85 on registration for those. So that is available right now. We'll have links in bio for that. And we just have 2 more Instagram lives before the end of the year here at the Narrative. So I'm excited about both of them. Renee and Terry, our core faculty members, have offered to kind of flip the script and interview me about my poetry book. So we'll do that next month. It's a blackout poetry book. So they have thoughts and questions about that, and I'm honored to be in conversation with them. So we'll do that November 16th. And then in December, I'm passing the mic entirely. I'm very excited about it. We're going to have, Micky mentioned Dr. E. We're going to have Erlina Edwards in conversation with Dr. E about this No Justice, No Peace book, transformative journey of social justice, anti-racism, and healing through the power of the Enneagram. Excellent, very important book. So those are coming soon.
Yeah. Oh, that's so great. Yeah, definitely tune in for those, y'all. They're going to be great. And I do mean it. If there is anything I can do to help folks in their process, if you know you're going to be in the internship and you need a coach, hit me up because I would love to coach with you. If folks have questions about the process, as someone who's gone through it fairly recently, I'm happy to answer questions. You know, I want people to be successful. I want people to be good at doing this work, you know, and to feel like they know what they're doing, or at least, I mean, I don't know if any of us feel like we know what we're doing.
Not, 'cause I don't.
But I don't know, like, feel like they're, I don't know, you know, at least in a community of folks that are doing their best. So
yeah, I'm with you on that.
I don't know.
Okay, Micky. Well, thank you so much for your time, and I hope we can do it again sometime. All right. Good. Bye. Good to talk with you.
Sounds good. See ya.